This is
ManVsMood.
I am your host, Will, joined as always on my left.
Mike Barnhart, what's up?
What up, on my right?
Gary from the Milwaukee High School.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Oregon Ducks. Duh.
Oh, we doing that? Okay.
FTD, fuck the Ducks.
From the Harmony, or no, I didn't go to Harmony. What the hell am I saying?
We can bring it out.
Riverview Roadrunners.
Wow, Riverview. I was McKinley Elementary and Rogers Park Elementary. So coming straight out of Anchorage, Alaska and Beavertown, Oregon.
Okay.
I went to 3 elementary schools, but I'm not going to name them all off. One of them is not even around anymore.
Really? They tore it down after you went there?
Charles F. Tigers, pretty much. I burned that house down.
Motherfuckers. Yeah, no, that's... where'd you go to high school, though?
Mountain View.
Mountain View.
Go Thunder.
Washougal. I'm a Panther. How about you? You went to Milwaukee, right?
Milwaukee High School.
We went over
What is that? What's their...
Well, we're best known for ice skating. We're also known for bats.
No,
What's the mascot?
Yeah.
The Mustangs. Mustang born.
Wow.
The colors are maroon and gold. It's kind of random, but it doesn't.
So like Central Catholic, but poor.
Yeah. and like when I went to high school, I told everybody that I went to Lake Ridge and Lake Oswego.
Of course. Yeah.
Like people are like, so where do you go? Jesuit.
Yeah, no, that's very true though, because Laco, Jesuit, Central Catholic, that whole thing, people being able to recruit in high school is absolutely bananas.
It sucked. Like when I went to high school, I played against Salim Stoudemire.
Oh yeah.
So Damon Stoudemire's cousin.
Yep.
And like he would just come in and like pull up from half court and shoot it.
He did it before Damon thought it was
Didn't he go to Wilson?
He went to Wilson, but then he went to Lake Oswego too.
Oh,
Who's
really?
the other Stoudemire? Not Damon, but...
There's
Oh, no.
Because when I was in high school, we played against Wilson, and they had David something.
There's like a million of them.
And he went to Oregon, and we came in there, this little podunk Vancouver school.
Yeah.
And we went in there, and we didn't roll them, but they were supposed to roll us.
Yeah.
We went there, and I think we won by like 3.
You won?
Wow.
Yeah, Mountain View beat Wilson with Stoudemire and David Jackson.
David Jackson. What?
The white David Jackson?
No.
Okay.
I know that guy, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like number 1 in the state of Oregon.
Yeah.
And then we went down to South Salem and I think lost.
So the South Salem is they have blue, that lame powder blue. I'm not a fan of North Carolina colors. They are like the Spartans or something like that. Anyway, this is ManVsMood podcast number 11.
So are we going to start over?
No, we're not going to start over. Just let it run. Let it run. Remember the rule. If you go 30 seconds and I don't screw up, I don't care if you guys screw up. It's me, because we got to have the show open at least somewhat normally. But after that, just let her rip.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about, first we're going to talk about what we're blessed as we sit here the day before. We're Christmas Eve. Mike has had 3 fingers of Glenlivet, so he's...
No.
He's...
No. 3 fingers of eggnog.
Okay.
And rum.
Exactly. So you had 3 fingers of rum with... Yeah. He
was 3
waved
fingers
the...
of rum and a splash of
exactly. You just wave it over the top. You get the essence of the eggnog.
Throw some nutmeg on top and
look at you. Good. You could be a barista. No. Mike the barista. I like the way that sounds.
I do too. Magic Mike the barista.
Wow.
Ooh.
How are you going to stir that? Anyway, so what we wanted to talk about today was how we've overcome challenges in the past, both or mentally, physically, things like that, but mainly with our mental health, because as we've documented very well on the show, all 3 of us, and unfortunately Jen is not with us tonight. She had to stay home and handle some stuff getting ready for Christmas, but so we will miss her in this debate, but we've been very vulnerable and very forthcoming with the challenges that we have dealt with, and we haven't exactly talked about the mechanisms we've used to overcome those challenges. Now, it's not something that we do easily or that happened or occurred overnight or in a week or a month or a year even. These challenges can take a long, long time. But once we have the tools to overcome them, then we're ready for those challenges as they come to us down the road. And what I like the most out of overcoming that is that I have at least a roadmap to help another person that is going through a similar challenge.
So is that what you're grateful for? Because I think we skipped over that.
No, I'm just opening up here.
Oh, okay.
I'm giving the groundworks, if you will. But no, since you bring that up, let's talk about what we're grateful for. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. If I'm forgetting something, I want you to have a happy holiday. But Gary, what are you blessed for this fine Thursday evening?
Man, so for one, I'm grateful to be here. So just want to apologize for being late.
No, we're good. We're on Gary time.
Like literally every single day this week, I worked 12 to 14 hours a day. So I'm just...
Why? Is it because of the holidays?
It's just crazy. Like, systems are down, traffic is up, things are just crazy. So for me, I'm thankful for not having to work the rest of the week.
Oh, so you have all through.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You work Monday through Friday?
Yeah. So yeah, now I'm just gonna relax and spend time with loved ones and look at your guys' beautiful faces.
You didn't have to put that part in there.
He had to choke to
Yeah.
say that.
I said, oh, okay, here we go.
Right. I had to come here from fighting the Christmas Eve traffic, which has been a disaster all day. But Mike, what about you? What are you thankful for?
I'm thankful for this entire year. Honestly, the learning experience, just everything we've been through. We've come up, this came together, and I'm just happy where I'm at right now and where I'm going. So
I'm very thankful that 2021 is almost over because it has been a tumultuous year. First half much more than the second half, but that's kind of how healing is. There's a wound, and that wound stays open for a while, and as long as you give it time and care, then you have what it takes inside you to heal the wound. Now you have to deal with whatever caused it, though. I mean, if it wasn't something that was some kind of freak accident, but I'm very thankful that we're sitting here and we're able to share that, and so along the same lines. But it's even bigger for me because I didn't know where I was going to be 6 months ago and how things were going to work out and whatnot. So I am truly thankful to be gathered around and talk about it and be open about it and be happy, even though there's absolutely days when the happiness is not overflowing like I wished it would. I'm not where I was. And so there's a lot to be thankful for. But when we talk about that, when we talk about those wounds, let's talk about some of the wounds that we've dealt with. Now, we don't have to be specific, but
we're talking about like this year or lifetime?
Whenever. I mean, we don't have a limit on it because each one of the wounds was an opportunity for us to grow, and as long as we don't let the wound fester, we're going to be better for it. We're going to be stronger, hopefully. So, Gary, since you've kind of led us down this path today, is there something in particular that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so like for me, like it's kind of funny. Like I'm in this group chat with like 7 other of my friends, and somebody asked, what's our podcast about? Like, what do we do and stuff like that. And like, I like honestly like didn't want to tell him. Like I didn't want to, let him know because I just felt myself retreating back to like the old me and like just being like, oh, like he's going to judge me. Like he's going to say something. He's going to look at me different or like, like I kind of found myself like in my
battle stance.
Yeah, exactly. Like a battle stance, like feeling myself like as like a child, and like when I was a child, like I felt like, because I was constantly being told like, you can't do this. Like you have to fit into this, box of like what what the world thinks, you have to do. Mm-hmm. So, like finally I told him and stuff like that, and like people were like, oh cool, we're gonna listen and stuff like that. But it's just interesting, like still after all this work that I've done on myself, with reading and psychology and just counseling and stuff like that, like there's still times when I find myself like still in that like child's mindset, and like that like I still have that armor on, to where I don't want to like open up sometimes.
And so are these people that you've been friends with for a long time?
Some are people that, know me for a year now or something like that. So yeah, it's
not too long.
Yeah.
So, with that, I'm sure with a new relationship, as we all have here. I mean, Mike and I have known each other for, years now.
I would say you guys have the newer relationship. I've known Gary for
a long time,
6 or 7 years now.
But on the level that we are at now, this is pretty new.
Yeah.
But I know exactly the feeling you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's something now I like it.
Yeah.
I've always been one to kind of swim upstream. I don't want to go with the flow.
Yeah.
But this type of thing, I feel, I've told you guys, I feel kind of like a born again Christian, because I want to tell everyone about it.
Yeah.
And not everyone wants to hear about it.
Yeah.
I get that. And I respect that. Absolutely 100%, because it's not my job to push myself on them. But when they ask me, like your friends have asked you, I don't have that reservation where I used to.
Yeah.
Or I just wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't even engage in it. Everything's fine. I'm all right. Don't even worry about it. And so now I kind of get excited. And is that something that you're feeling as well, where you're excited, or is it still some trepidation about opening up about it?
Like, I'm so excited. I like,
you come dancing in.
Yeah. Like I legit love doing this. Like I love just speaking, like I love talking, like I love, knowing that like our stories are getting out to other people. Because it's like, I think about what I needed, when I was going through, certain things, and I think about what got me to this point. And then I'm like, maybe my story, your story, and Jen's story could help somebody, because it's like some of the shit people have said to us, like some of the shit people have said to you, some of the shit people have said to you, like that fucking pisses me off. And like, for me, like I'm a very protective person, like of the people that I care about. So I don't know. Like, I don't like that. And like, I just think I want people to hear our story, so it could potentially save somebody's life.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's,
it
is not hyperbole to say that, because when you have been where we have been, and Mike, I'm going to turn to you because that's a perfect segue. We have been places where we never thought we were going to be 20 years ago in our minds. And once we got there, once we were on the doorstep of, holy shit, I mean, this is real now. We want other people to know that, we've been down this path. And you and I have talked about this offline, and the three of us have, but that is a connection that we know that we have created those connections with people, and that they are telling us, hey, this is helping me, or at least it's opening my mind up. Mike, for you, when, and if there's a situation that you want to talk about, absolutely. But that in particular, how did you get yourself out of that mentality?
I think a lot of my mistakes, or my wounds, I guess you would call them, as you said earlier, a lot of them were self-inflicted. And a lot of it was, not growing up with a father that was really present in my life, whether it was by his choice or by my mom's doing or whatever. But the male role models that I had in my life were not high on the list. They're bottom barrel. And so trying to raise yourself and stumbling through life and making all those poor choices, it's gotten to me where I am today. But I'm also kind of, now I can look back and say I'm grateful for it, but man, those days sucked. They really sucked. Hiding in your room because you're afraid to get yelled at by your step parent, or being told you can't have something food wise because you're already too fat, or just getting picked on by other kids. And life just sucks sometimes, but as I sit here now, how I've kind of gotten myself out of it now is I'm looking at like, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for my 3 kids. I'm grateful that, yeah, I'm not maybe not have my own house right now, but I have a roof over my head. I have food in my belly.
Exactly.
You know, I have a good paying job, and I have amazing people in my life that I've found and cultivated those relationships through my struggles, whether it was my youth leaders growing up. So I had good male role models that way. Or even friends, their parents, seeing their strong relationships that they've been married forever. And, you know, I've gravitated towards those type of people and those type of relationships. And so over time, I didn't see it back then, but now as, you know, as a 43-year-old, now I'm really grateful for those examples that they provided. So it's tough to say how I really got myself out of it. And maybe I never really did. Maybe I just stumbled my way out of it. You know, I don't think of it was maybe a conscious effort.
Yeah.
But just, you know, how can I move forward to the next day and wake up the next day and not check out or not say, you know, punch the ticket and say, I'm done. I want out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there, but the biggest thing is just finding something to be grateful for, even if it's something small, you know, not even something large, like, oh, I have $1,000 or whatever, but hey, I ate food today. I woke up today. You know, find something small that you're grateful for and build on it. Because you can, even if you're in the worst mood and your mental state is shit, you can find something that you are grateful for that day.
Absolutely. I mean, waking up.
Yeah.
There are people that, 2 weeks ago we had a tornado rip through Kentucky
Man, that's so
and
sad.
literally rip people out of their homes while they were sleeping. So when we say that we're thankful to wake up, that's the kind of thing that we have to keep in mind. I mean,
there's some days, sorry to cut you off. There's some days where I was like, man, I really hope I don't wake up tomorrow, because I didn't want to. You know, I'm just like, I was in that spot where I'm just like, I hope there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I'm always glad now that there was, you know.
One that you had whether you understood it at that time or not, you had to pull yourself out of that. Okay. Because what happens is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
And self-perpetuating. You don't feel good, so you do things that aren't good for you. Then it's a circle. That's how I got so fat. Okay. I mean, I ate because I was fat, and I was fat because I ate. And I make the joke that it was like Fat Bastard in what was that, Goldfinger or whatever, Goldmember. But that's really what it was. I mean, I can remember sitting in my car just plowing down chicken nuggets and Wendy's burgers and shit, and just, I hate myself, but it's so good when it hits my lips. And I laugh about it. But there's a lot of people out there that they didn't have. I had the benefit of knowing what it felt like to be in good shape, because when I was 22 years old, I was built like a brick shithouse, and I worked out 5-6 days a week, and I mean, I was in good shape. And so I knew what that felt like, and I enjoyed, I still do very much, you know, physical activity. It was the food part that was so hard. And so I had to get to that point where I was tired of it. And you had to get to the point where you're like, I want to wake up tomorrow. If I don't, I'm 50-50 on whether I'm upset about that.
And the thing was because a lot of my trials and tribulations were self-inflicted with choices I've made or decisions I decided against doing something right and I did something wrong. It's my own fault. Yeah. You know, and the biggest enemy I've ever had to face is really myself. It wasn't my wasn't my step parents. Yeah. It wasn't my you know, blood family. It was myself. Yeah. You know, and being your own worst enemy, that's so hard to face.
It is, but you also have to understand that it was their responsibility to give you an environment that you can thrive. Okay. Yeah. You too. Yeah. You dealt with a lot of shit. Yours was more physical, and you had an honest to goodness threat. Okay. And you had a threat as well. But as a child, you don't have a warm, open space to be yourself, to discover who you are, what it does is it stunts your growth mentally.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you end up becoming an adult child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are ways that, you're plenty mature and things like that. But in a lot of ways, and this is something as I dove into the adult child of an alcoholic situation that I learned is we make very adolescent decisions in a very, very, very responsible manner. Yeah. Because ACOAs and folks that are from whatever background the three of us have, we're all very responsible people.
Yeah.
Okay. If we tell somebody we're going to do it, we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. Those types of things. And so, kind of along the lines of what you're talking about, I had a safe space to go when I was in high school. I had a really good friend, and that house was I could be me. I wasn't judged. I wasn't put down. They loved having me there. Honest to goodness, not like, oh, Will's here. I mean, they really liked having me there. And so I think back on that, and I had a coach that made all the difference in the world. Whereas you had a coach that made a difference in your world, but for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. And so those things, I mean, the reason I'm so hard-headed now is because of the coach I had when I was a freshman in high school. He taught me what it to be literally like a man, to suck it up and deal with some shit. Now, I went overboard with it, though, and just took everything, crumpled it up, and shoved it all the way down. And didn't deal with it until, probably arguably late last year and this year. So it's interesting how we do that, but one thing I want to ask you guys is you've been down this path. Does it feel like you're peeling an onion? Oh, that each new discovery about yourself and about your situation and about your past, you have to be careful that when you're peeling those layers back, that you don't kind of revert to what got you there.
Well, I think you have to give yourself grace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
you have to give yourself grace, and you have to give yourself I think the hardest thing for me is to be able to forgive myself for some of the choices I've made or didn't make. Yeah. And it's funny because I forget where I heard it. I don't know if we talked about it even, but forgiveness isn't for, like, if I were to forgive you, forgiveness isn't for me forgiving you for something, Will. Nope, it's me. It's basically releasing that and saying, I don't need to worry about it anymore. I don't have to hold it because I forgive you and I release it. And if you're still going to be a dick or an asshole, then that's you. Yeah. But I don't have to hold that anymore. And so, like, for me, the biggest thing is, and I don't even know if I really even have forgiven some of the other people in my life. I won't mention any names, but like, I think I still have that process to go through.
Oh,
but the whole onion thing is this last year and a half, I would say, by going to counseling and really finding, and I went through, it's called ART, Accelerated Resolution Therapy. I've talked about it before. Really reliving some of those traumatic events and changing them in my mind, so I'm not feeling the emotions with the event. I don't see it that way anymore. By changing it, I can release a lot of that pent up, hurt or trauma and stuff like that. And so by being able to do that, pulling back an onion peel in a lot of ways has been really revealing, and I'm connecting a ton of dots of, hey, this is why I'm at where I'm at. Whereas 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, I didn't know I did what I did, but now I do because of my, the way my brain was wired through those traumatic events.
But yeah, because it's like you're looking yourself like in the mirror too. So it's like when you do these things, you're faced to, look at yourself. You can't really blame like anybody else. And it's funny because like in Creed, Creed, asked Rocky, can you train me? Can you train me? Can you train me? And the first thing that Rocky does is he has him, shadow box.
Yeah, in the mirror, right?
In the mirror, because he has to. He said, this is going to be your toughest opponent or something like that. And that's so true. Oh. Like, it's so true because it's like Yeah, you know, the onion thing is definitely true, you know, because it's like we've dealt with so much trauma, we've dealt with so much fucked up shit, to where it's like you have to like either sink or swim, you know, like meaning like you have to, you know, get new tools, you have to gain new things to get through life and to basically, you know, shed that like child.
Yeah, and that I don't know that you ever shed it.
Yeah.
At
I
least
think you
for
just
me.
I think you just understand.
Yes,
Yeah.
you
understand
learn.
it more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's true. But yeah, like there's this saying of like you're tired of reacting to life as you're hurt, like inner child. And yeah, like I guess shedding it was wrong, but I just think that it's more about just getting those tools to like help you cope, you know, with life and, you know, different things that are thrown at you, I think.
I think that I think a lot of it also is that each of us has had a traumatic event that defines the response that we have.
Yeah.
You had a family member that was aggressive towards you.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I was afraid that I was either going to get in trouble for no apparent reason or that I was going to be in the middle of a fight. You talked about something earlier. I would fear getting in the shower when my dad and stepmom were together. She worked swing most of the time, so they weren't together. But when they were, if I got in the shower, because I was the buffer. So when I got in the shower, I mean, it's crazy to think that just taking a fucking shower, I would be fearful. And guess what?
Yeah.
Halfway through a 5-minute shower, yelling and screaming.
Yeah. Wow.
And over just the dumbest shit imaginable.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad when us growing up, we have to be our own parent. Well, we have to act like our parents.
Yeah.
To our parents.
Yes, 100%.
And it's funny because I had a conversation with my daughter, I think yesterday. We were sitting outside at Michelle's house around the fire table and talking, and she was pretty adamant. It's like she goes, you know, I've had to be the parent to you and mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, when? And she goes, well, in this situation. And I'm like, fuck, man, I put her in that situation. That, you know, and then I start beating myself up for it. But I'm just like,
You know what? I'm going to give you some applause. You have a relationship with your daughter that she feels comfortable being vulnerable with you and saying that.
That's true.
You can deal with it, okay?
Mhm.
As long as both of you are willing to be honest, you admit you made a mistake. She admits that it sucked, but Dad, I'm not going to hold it against you. That is light years away from where the three of us were.
oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, for sure.
no way on earth I could have, because I was in the same situation. I guarantee you were in the same situation where I had to physically pick my dad up the day my sister was getting married because he got so fucked up and came stumbling home at 4:00 in the morning in New York where he didn't know anything or anyone. I didn't know if he was going to get home.
Damn.
Okay. And I had to wake him up and say, you got to go to your daughter's wedding. And I was 20-some years old at that time.
That's crazy.
And that was my life. And so I could never have a conversation with him about that because he would deny and obfuscate.
Yeah.
Oh, I just had a couple drinks. No, you literally drank a handle of fucking whiskey.
Yeah, I could never do that because I grew up in a house like with my grandparents with one family member who had never been sober. Like, I can't even remember the last time that I've seen him sober. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just, drunk every day. And, he's using different things to displace, his life and his, reality and stuff like that. And then another uncle, who just would work, for a month or 2 weeks or whatever, and then buy a video game. And then from there, he'd just be playing, Super Mario or Zelda or Halo or whatever. And it was
That's just a level of addiction to video games I did not know existed.
Yeah.
I did know, but I have never talked to anyone that would go to those lengths.
So like if I ever tried to like correct anybody or anything, like it was going to be some shit. It was going to be like.
But it was going to be violent. Wasn't it?
For sure. It was going to be like, golf clubs, nunchucks, paintballs, ninja stars, like anything around you, it's gonna be yelling or screaming. And it was just like, for me, that's what it was. Like that was my childhood, right? So like it wasn't only until I got around certain people that I'm super thankful for. Like one of my best friends, I'm so thankful for her. Like I feel bad because I don't spend enough time with her now. But like if it wasn't for her, like, and her family, I would not be. Like I wouldn't like, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not, like, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be, like, I wouldn't have went to college. I wouldn't have, play basketball and stuff like that, for her and for my son's mom and her family and stuff too. It was just great because I came from a world of like, you like couldn't go to sleep because if you went to sleep early, somebody was gonna come and fuck with you. Somebody was gonna throw shoes at you. So then like it got to the point to where I started sleeping with the pillow over my head because I didn't want people to come in and throw cans or whatever at me. Like it got to the point to where I couldn't even enjoy like a Christmas because I couldn't put my present down because it was gonna be stolen or something like that. And what your daughter did is amazing. Like
that is incredible.
Yeah,
man.
like
I think it is a huge leap for you to have that kind of bond with your daughter.
Yeah,
and that she feels comfortable saying that to you. It sucks.
Yeah.
Know that it sucks, but you can acknowledge it. Just like all these other painful experiences, you acknowledge that they occurred.
Oh, trust me, that was painful.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm just like, damn.
But you listened to her and you acknowledged her and you're really hearing what she's saying.
Yeah.
And you're only part of the equation.
Yeah.
It's not all on you.
No, but I take it and put it all on me.
I understand that.
Even though I know her mom's on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's because that's what we do.
Yeah.
You did that.
Yeah.
You accepted it for other people.
Yeah.
You ate it because if we're going to call a spade, there was an adult that should have been protecting you from that.
Yeah.
And you eat it so that person isn't in trouble or because, let's be honest, that was borderline illegal. If you're accosting a child, that's called child abuse.
Yeah.
And so, but you ate those events so that another person, you protected them and you took the brunt of that.
Yeah.
And I didn't my dad would drive around town just absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
And I would be riding shotgun. I can remember him going, "How'd we get home, Wills?" And I'm like fucking 12 years old. I'm like, "Well, you drove us home, Dad."
Oh my God.
What time did we leave? About 3:30. He would get me. I would fall asleep, and he and his buddy would just be plowing through the
3:30 a.m. or p.m.?
Oh, yeah, a.m.
Oh
my God.
Yeah, and we'd just weave our way home.
At 12.
6, 9.
Wow.
It was not. It was all of my life.
Yeah.
That was, and that was my dad. He lived in Alaska, and so I didn't get to see him very often. So it was always exciting for me to go see him, but then I would have to be in this hell of alcoholism. But I loved my dad so much.
Yeah.
And then but when I was at home, I would go and, here's a good example. I haven't told you guys this story. I went undercover for Channel 8 News and Inside Edition for a week when I was between my junior and senior year. So I went undercover to expose a magazine scam, and Portland police were involved as well. So I got hired on. Anyway, long story short, I had to be extracted by the Portland police, and they had cameras and all that. Well, I had one day while I was in the middle of this where I got out, and I had to go debrief them and kind of do that shit. So I had the choice of, I had like 8 hours because then I had to go back. We were at a hotel over in Portland. In that 8 hours, I could have hung out with my mom and my stepdad, but the first thing I did when I got home was I drove down to this house where a family, they truly were like a saving grace for me. And I've always been so appreciative of them because that's what I always wanted. I wanted to go a place where I wanted to be home. And I never wanted to be home when once I got my truck, I was gone.
Yeah.
And I was never around. But to be, undercover somewhere where people were stealing. I mean, I'll tell you stories about that sometime.
Damn.
About some fucked up
Wow.
people, because these kids were traveling around the nation. I was supposed to leave with them the following week, but yeah, it was crazy. I had a secret recorder, a camera, and we were at this final meeting right before they were going to storm in. Like shit you see on TV. They had cameras. They had 2 hotel rooms. There were detectives at each end of the hallway. And we're in this big meeting. I had just gotten a 4-foot bong on camera that they had showed me and everything. And this guy that ran the operation, like, if you didn't sell enough magazines, you didn't get as much money for your food. You had to sleep on the floor. I mean, it was a disaster.
Wow.
But they pulled us into this sales meeting, and this fucking thing starts beeping. I've got this big, like, it looks like this. It was a little bit bigger than a VCR tape, and it's taped to my stomach. And I thought it was beeping. I'm like, and the camera's right here, and I'm freaking out. I go into the bathroom. I'm like, what the fuck's going on with all that? It was somebody's pager. It wasn't even my thing.
My God.
Wow.
Oh, I was shitting bricks. And because I think the FBI was involved as well, but they were right next to me. And I'm just like, get your shit together, Slater. Because, I mean, this is who knows what these people can do, because these are just the bottom of the barrel kids. I mean, latchkey, the whole not great. And I mean, they stole all kinds of my shit. But anyway, the point of the story is that I didn't want to go home. I wanted to go to the house where there was happiness, not where
Strife and
exactly.
stress.
And people that want, I mean, my mom loved me to death, and I, rest in peace, Mom. She was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But
See, sorry to cut you off again, but I think our parents they can only love us as much as they know or learned how to love when they were kids.
Yeah.
And that's why one of the things I have to forgive both of my parents for is looking at where I'm at now and everything I've gone through. I've heard their stories, how they grew up, and I just don't think they knew how to love properly because they didn't have that.
Really?
So, and it's funny because we have kids, we all have kids, and it's like how much of what we do is like the opposite of what our parents did to us.
Yeah.
And how much of that is a result of us making a commitment to ourselves when we were younger that if we ever had kids, we were never going to put them through that. I know I said I would never become an alcoholic.
Yeah.
It was very important to me at a very young age and I loved to party.
Yeah.
And I was the life of the party. But I never wanted to, and I didn't like to drink as much as the rest of my family because my family was covered in addiction.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm interested though, because you brought up a really good point. And I think that when I think of my family, I had a pretty standard upbringing. My parents did, until the alcohol and things like that entered the equation. You had violence though.
Yeah.
What do you think the reason for the violence was? Was it out of necessity, or because it was your uncles that
Sounds more like out of jealousy than
anything. I mean, how did your uncle become like that?
Basically, like, I think like when you just aren't trained on like how to communicate, and like when you aren't trained on like how to handle your feelings and handle your like handle yourself like in different situations and stuff like that. Like there was no let's just take 5 minutes and think about this and talk, or let's talk about this now. It was fuck you, I'm getting my gun, I'm getting my knife, I'm getting my nunchucks, I'm getting.
So the consequences didn't register. It was so important to hurt another person.
For sure. Because it was all about like inflicting fear. So it was all about, like who can yell the loudest and who can be the biggest and stuff. So I mean, for me, like growing up, so I feel like that's what got me to the point that I'm at now, is seeing all this violence and seeing how all these things cultivated together, and seeing like where these people are now. Like I don't have a relationship with them because I just can't, and like I'm sitting here and I'm listening to Mike, and he's talking about forgiving his family, and I hear that and I know that too. But there's just certain people that I could probably honestly never forgive.
Well, but let me ask you this,
Yeah.
Gary. Do you feel that you're letting them off the hook by forgiving them? Or do you look at it as, if I don't forgive them, then I can still hold this against them?
I just think that honestly, like, I'm not letting them off the hook, but it's just these people are not capable of answering simple questions. Like,
And you don't even have to talk to them and tell them
Yeah,
you forgive
yeah.
them. As long as in your mind, you could write it on a piece of paper and write, Uncle whatever,
yeah,
I forgive you for what you did on da 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 da.
Oh, yeah,
And and then you can burn the thing.
Yeah.
But as long as you, in your mind and in your heart, forgive somebody,
Yeah.
I don't think you have to tell them. I'm never going to tell my stepfather or my stepdad that I forgive him. I'm not going to give him that power, but
Yeah,
I'm going to, in my mind,
Yeah.
forgive him. So that's not affecting me anymore.
yeah, he's gonna have to forgive these hands, I think. But no, but I mean, for me, honestly, like I tried to get answers and things talked about. So I mean, for me, like, I was raised by my grandparents because my dad was not there, my mom was not there, so I didn't talk to my dad honestly for probably 20 years.
Really?
So I didn't talk to my mom for 22 or 23 years.
Wow.
No shit.
And like the thing about it is my uncle the entire time was talking with my mom. And they would hang out, they'd go on hikes
What?
and go watch movies and stuff like that.
Was that his sister? Or?
Yeah, it was a sister. So I'd be like, have you heard from her? Have you talked to her? Nope. Haven't heard from her, haven't talked to her, haven't anything, right? So my, all this time was going by and all this time was going by, and all these things are happening, to where, there's certain things that take place to where a mom needs to be there, a dad needs to be there, somebody there to help. But, I finally found out that they were communicating. So I reached out to her and I asked her why she wasn't there and why, she wasn't helping me. And, the answer that I received back wasn't anything that I would say to my child, wasn't anything that, like, somebody would say or try to help or cope or anything. It was just, it is what it is, basically, and I think for me, like, that's what makes me want to work on myself and make me want to be better and make me go to therapy and me open up and me do things that I got to do because I love my son, like I love, people and stuff like that. And, just to think about certain things that my mom dealt with, my dad dealt with, my family dealt with, and they didn't want to make themselves better. They just hit that wall and then said, fuck it, and then stopped. I couldn't do that.
And to not handle your responsibilities, okay? There's one thing not paying a parking ticket, but if you're going to do the deed and you're going to have children, everyone's willing to have the fun part, but you gotta pay to play. And saying, and you don't have to say what she said, that's between you and her, but the feeling that I'm sure Mike has and I have is that it certainly wasn't something that reinforced your love for your mother. And how you overcome that that's the biggest stepping stone of your life. And you may not have done it yet.
I don't know if you're there yet. I don't know if you're ready for that.
I don't think you are.
But I think, I think when you are ready, Gary, I think you're gonna. I mean, it's gonna bring you to tears.
Oh, for sure.
Honestly, but like when you can sit down and you don't even have to say it to her. Again, like I said, you put it on something, get it out. But when that happens, dude, you're gonna feel so much better. It's so much different.
But no, like it's funny that you said that because that's some of the things that I'm working on with my therapist right now is writing a letter to, my mom or writing a letter to my uncle or writing a letter to my younger self because I haven't forgiven those people. Like I've said that I forgive you, but I don't really feel that shit like in my heart or my chest. And like
I can tell you haven't. You're giving off. I haven't forgiven you yet. Vibes.
You're giving off the DMV lady vibes.
Yeah, maybe not that much. No, I'm joking. Probably more.
Yeah.
Listen, Linda.
Yeah, right. But yeah, like I just think that like I'm working on that now, like with my therapist, and something else that we talked about too, which I'll talk about because you just mentioned, is crying.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't cried in like years.
So you're allergic to crying, is what you're saying?
Basically, yeah. Like it pains me. Like, so I just think that my therapist has been talking with me about this for weeks now. Like, so now, you know, we're doing different things to like forgive myself as a child, forgive, you know, certain things and stuff like that. And I mean, I'll let you guys know like when it happens, because I want it to happen, but I'm not gonna like.
You can't force it. It's not something that is forcible, because I'm right there. There are some people that have done some really bad shit to me, and I harbor an incredibly large amount of ill will towards them. And I have to harness that anger because I do not want to live in a world where there is not anger, because it's a very powerful emotion, but you have to harness it, and you have to harness it for good. And that's what I'm really trying to focus on now, is harnessing and focusing the anger. And it's not that anyone ever sees it. I'm the one that has the anger, because I have become so good. And this is to your point about not being able to cry. I have become so good at controlling my emotions that I've gone on autopilot. Now, there are times I'm not like you. There are times when I cry and it is damn near uncontrollable. Yeah. It will come, and when it comes, and I actually like it, because to me it's like, emotions, these are fun. This is actually a good thing. Yeah. But we have become so good throughout decades of practice of controlling that. I know you have talked about that.
Yeah, we don't show it, because if you show it, then it's weakness. And that's what's been spit out by media and by our society is if you show any sign of weakness, you are lesser than everybody else. You're not man enough. And that's such bullshit.
It is absolute bullshit. And for me, it was weakness, and I didn't think anyone would care. That is a part of me where I didn't think anyone cared about me. I'm like, well, if I complain about it, all they're going to do is say, quit complaining. Yeah. So what the fuck why am I going to talk about it? Yeah. If you're going to throw it back in my face and make me feel worse for it, why am I going to communicate with you? Yeah. You don't give a shit if that's your mentality towards me. So I'm like Pac-Man.
And it's tough to find somebody that you can literally cry in front of without feeling like they're going to make fun of you. They're going to say you're, lesser than, or
like,
well, for example,
trust, man.
I wear my heart on my sleeve. So if I watch like Marley and Me, I have a huge heart for animals and dogs.
I can't watch that.
Dude, that was a bawling, crying, sobbing mess. Then I have my wife at the time, now soon to be ex-wife. She was basically like, "Are you crying? Why are you crying?"
Man,
it's a movie.
Like I remember,
I'm like, because I've been in that situation where I've had to put a dog down, and it is the most heart-wrenching thing ever. That's the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is put an animal down.
The first time that I cried around somebody that wasn't like a family member was my son's mom, and it was so embarrassing, because I was like,
but it shouldn't be embarrassing. No. That's the thing.
Well,
it's not embarrassing for a woman to do it.
Well, the situation was embarrassing, because we went and watched a movie, and like, I didn't cry until we got to the car, but then I got to the car and I just started crying. We went and watched Notebook.
Oh, that's understandable. It's understandable.
Yeah, like
I mean, you had a thing for Ryan Gosling. I get it.
Yes, Nicholas Sparks, man.
He's a poker player too. That's what I like about Nicholas Sparks. He's a poker player. The guy that directed it, I think he wrote it too.
Yeah, but like it was just
not that I know anything about the film, but
it's great. But like I just remember thinking like, what is happening right now? Like I'm sitting there like in the theater, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then I walk into the car and she's like, so what do you think? I'm like, it was cool. And then I got to the car and I closed the door and, oh, why did that have to happen? It was so brutal.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You cried at the movie.
Mm-hmm. In my
What
car.
was it that elicited that response?
Just the love like that they had for each other. Like just the like camaraderie and like the appreciation and stuff like that. Because for me, like I never really seen like real love. Mm-hmm. Like I never really
like
seen
some Jody, real love. That's what I'm talking about. Jody.
Exactly. Like I just never seen like an example of that. And I think for me, like that's why like I'm thankful, for the families and stuff that I had to where I could witness their parents being in real love. And like real love is not being happy all the time. It's fucking arguing and, but fixing the problems and stuff like that. And for me, like, that's why I'm thankful for my best friend now and for my son's mom, because they would fight, they would bicker, they would, argue. And like, I would kind of see it and I would expect somebody to be like, I'm going to get my nunchucks.
I'm going to fuck you up now.
Exactly. So I'd be like the Homer Simpson gif where you're just backing away like into the bushes slowly. Like, oh, damn, here we go, right?
Like all Seahawks fans right now.
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I just think that like, I don't know, like this is going to sound cocky or whatever, but like, I'm thankful for me because.
That was cocky. No, I'm just kidding.
You should be.
Like,
very thankful.
Like,
yeah.
Just, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for you. And I think like we should all think like that, because some of the shit that people have said to me, said to you, like it'd be easy just to like, end it.
Oh yeah.
But rather than fucking ending it, like we're just regular guys just here talking about some real shit. Like stuff that like guys can't talk about. Like
well, they can. They just make the choice not to.
Yeah. Like
because they're afraid to look weak.
Or talk about crying, like watching The Notebook. Like this,
I can't
this is
say
what we
that
should
I've
be
done
doing.
that,
Like we should be talking about this shit and opening up and laughing and joking and all this. I don't know.
I think that what you would find is there are a set group of people that will always be against it and think that a physical response, which is tears, is weakness. Mm-hmm. And in reality, as we covered in the toxic masculinity podcast, that has nothing to do with it.
I think people that can cry, guys that can cry, have more heart than the people that can't.
Oh, for sure. That's a fact.
Absolutely. I mean,
they're
like
cold,
a correlation.
They're cold and they're dead inside.
Yeah.
The ones that can't.
That's a fact.
Or the ones that refuse to do it.
I 100%
I
agree
do
with
not
that.
refuse to do it, but I am the first one, because and that is something that I've really tried to work on, is to stop being so cold. But when I've had so many experiences, I mean, the last time I saw my father-in-law, he wanted to kill me. Yeah. He was going to get his gun until I told him, if you get yours, I'm getting mine, and we'll just kill each other. And he was laying on the ground in a pool of blood because of what I had to do to him, because he tried to choke me.
Yeah.
So you didn't, just for the record, you did not shoot him.
No, I didn't shoot him. He ran away, and he had to go stash his gun, which he had, because it was an unregistered weapon.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of it. We have a brief interlude.
Yeah,
Hi, everyone.
Bree's leaving with her friend right now.
Bye, Bree.
Hi.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
You're on live right now.
Yeah, you're on the podcast.
Live?
Not live.
Not
but
live. No one can see you.
No.
They can just hear you.
Bye.
But that's that mentality that I've had, where I have had to be so cold and have to be in control so that my kids don't get hurt, and they would never be in danger, because everyone has always protected them. Or my brother-in-law being drunk, whatever it might be. I inherited more fucking problems when, just life happens. Yeah. And so I want to warm that heart up, that, the Grinch, that cold heart. And some ways I'm very, very overwhelmingly filled with, heart. and in other ways, I'm a cold motherfucker because I could pull triggers when a lot of people couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's not something I'm proud of.
Yeah.
Jeez, Bree. My gosh, we're live.
Such a distraction.
Holy moly.
I'm sorry, guys.
But you're the best distraction in my life.
There you go.
Oh, that was sweet.
Well, you're the oldest distraction, I guess.
Wow, that's quite the step down to go from the best to the oldest.
But you're not a distraction. I love you.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Oh, he definitely loves you. He said it on a podcast.
Yeah. It's out in public now.
For everyone that doesn't know, Mike's oldest daughter has entered
She just
the
turned
room.
18. She's deciding on where she
18.
wants to go to college.
Look at you, Bree.
She wants to be a teacher when she grows up.
Ooh.
She wants to help turn youth of America into great citizens.
Okay.
That's awesome.
That'll be a challenge.
It will be.
good
Teachers
for you,
have a
though.
challenge.
That's
Absolutely.
That's
Anyway,
good.
but it's did you find that when because of the violence and the concern that you had for your safety that made you harder or have less emotion and feeling, if you will?
Definitely. I mean, for me, I kind of had to learn to just be more like reserved and just to be more quiet and stuff, because there was just certain things that I didn't want to say to certain people, because I felt like I was going to be judged, or, like I didn't even want to give people the opportunity to even know me or to know, what I was going through, because every person within this house that I was growing up in was just not like their thought processes and their thought like ideologies and stuff just wasn't conducive to a child. Like it wasn't even conducive to hold a job for a month. It wasn't conducive.
It wasn't conducive to reality.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that like there's just so many things like that I've learned. I mean, like even like in the last year, like when I find myself, being, feeling like a certain type of way, like I do this thing where I like basically check my like psychological fortitude. And
Really?
like, yeah. So
Can you
like,
give us a little insight into that?
Yeah, so basically, like, for me, like, I just call it the PF, and it's like a scale of like 1 to 10. So I'll find, like where I am, with 1 being the very worst, like I'm very, depressed or angry, or I want to lash out or fight back or whatever, to a 10, and I feel great. There's nothing going on. So it's like, depending on what I'm doing, depending on where I'm at, I will do different things to, get myself, from a 3 to a 7, just to like help myself get through the day.
Have you set goals for kind of what stasis is, where your baseline is, where, some traumatic event could bring you down to a 1 or a 2. Where do you want to be? Because obviously we can't live at a 10.
Yeah.
And we can't live at a 1.
Yeah.
Where's that happy zone for you?
For me, like, I would love to be at a 10 all the time.
Yeah,
I'd love to be happy, but that's not real.
No, not at all.
So
We still have to live.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just for me, like, if I'm at a 7 to where, I can get through the day, I know, people are going to say, certain things about me, but I have mental backing, just from positive things that I've said to myself, because I definitely believe, in positive self-talk, and uplifting mantras and words and stuff like that, like things you're saying to yourself, just to keep yourself, like at a 7, just to get through the day, because there's a lot of shit we face, whether it's, saying that you can't wear a Ducks hat, to
The Trailblazers hat.
yeah, to just I don't know, to just anything.
Yeah.
And I just think that for me, like, I'll just do things, like whether like I talked about before, with PPP, with pause, pray, and proceed. There's things that I do, with just hugging yourself. Saying I love you, I appreciate you, I value you.
It's also important to recognize that we put all of these tools to use. Triple P, love that. That's awesome. I've talked about
P squared or P cubed.
Yeah.
P to the third power, or in the nose, out through the mouth. It's also important to recognize that sometimes people have chemical imbalances, and we've talked about supplementation a little bit. I encourage people to, if you're trying these things that we're talking about, and they're just not working for you, it's very, very common because of whether it's past things that you've been through, possibly drugs, alcohol, things like that. That can make your brain different than it was before. So if that is something where, oh man, I've been listening to you guys for 11 shows now, and I'm trying all these things and nothing's working. Well, you've got to be your own best advocate, and it may mean that you need something different. You may need a supplement, whatever it might be. But if you're using the tools that we're giving you, you're just getting our perspective, and it works well for us, but we're not you, the listener. And so I encourage everyone to really try to do what you do. And that's, where are you?
Yeah.
Use that scale. And I love that.
Yeah.
And the one question that I had on that, because I think it's a really brilliant thing to help base yourself on, is, did you apply a feeling that you were familiar with to each number? So you say a 1 is, my uncle came in, stole my shit, and slapped me over the face. That's a 1. And number 10 is, I won $1,000 on the lottery ticket. My son scored 50 points, and I got a bonus at work.
Yeah.
Is that something that you have done, or have you done that mentally?
Not like I never really thought about that, honestly. Like for me, like 1, 2, 3 was fight.
Yeah. Okay.
Like 4, 5 was not where I want to be at, but it was like a decent zone just to like take myself and gather my thoughts and slow down and relax and breathe. And for me, like, I love to listen to Jim Quick. He's like a podcaster and stuff like that, and he specializes in quick little podcasts, that last 10 minutes and 15 minutes and stuff like that. Yeah. And he just, his life basically was, when he was young, he had like a brain injury. So everybody told him that he was dumb and he was stupid and he can't live and do all these things. But then he got older, and now he helps people remember things and get through the day and just focus on uplifting yourself so you can uplift others and stuff like that. So like for me, if I'm at like a 4 or 5, I'll listen to him. If I'm at like a 4 or 5, I'll, go like in a quiet place, and just hug myself or talk to myself or uplift myself, and to get up to a 6 or a 7 or something like that. But I've never thought about like, 1's my uncle, but 10 is winning money in Vegas or something like that.
I just, because some of us don't have a good handle on what our emotions are, because they may swing wildly or they may not swing at all. Yeah. You feel like you're an oak. Yeah. And you're just one number all the time. Yeah. So if you can take that and assign, whether it's events or feelings, to what those numbers are, so that you can associate with them a little bit better. Yeah. And just for anyone out there listening to that, because that is something that I think I'm going to do, because I like that. Yeah. I will have a pendulum like feeling sometimes based on external circumstances. Yeah. And so I think that would be really helpful for me, especially.
Like, I definitely like, what you're saying about finding what works for you. Because I've been through, a few counselors. I went to they have this course that's called the Landmark Forum. Yeah. And, it's basically just like therapy, and, like it teaches you about what happened to you and then your story, and kind of like separating things and stuff like that. So it's like, for me, like, it's taken 37 years to like figure out what works for me and what's going to get me from a 4 to a 7, from fighting or arguing to, being like, it's okay, man.
I'm cool.
Like, I'm cool. Yeah. Because, not every day, you can just lash out on somebody, And for me, like, I'm to the point now to, if somebody says something disrespectful to me or rude to me or whatever, like, it's me just thinking like, hurt people. And for me, gratitude is always going to be my attitude, and I'm always going to be thankful, and I'm always just going to know if somebody says something to me, it's because they're hurt inside.
Yeah.
They're pained inside. They haven't lived through that, therapy, and that built themselves up through that trauma. So
and survived, and to see the other side. A lot of people like to stay in the mire of their pain.
yeah.
They don't want to.
Well, a lot of people don't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need a kick in the ass, and sometimes that's because you're so low.
Yeah.
Well, and the problem is, that's where huge addictions like alcohol, drugs,
Women.
things like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That come into play is instead of dealing with it, they medicate it.
Mm-hmm.
And medicating it's a perpetual cycle, It's just going to keep continuing to go and go and go until you say enough's enough.
Yeah.
And you have to get to that point, and I think that's a recurring theme that all of us have talked about through every episode, is that we finally got to that point where, and it may not be rock bottom, and it may not be the things movies are made of, but it's our own personal hell that we live through, and we want to see the heaven.
Well, the thing is, when do you want to get out of your own hell?
Mm-hmm.
And
it takes a long time.
Yeah. If you like living in it and staying in it, then
And
whatever,
you have to
stay
realize
there.
that a lot of people are. And what Gary said is something, and I want to start wrapping up because we've gotten, again, well past an hour. But I understand that they hurt, and I understand that they don't, that's all they know is that pain. And so if they don't know what the other side feels like, then they're not going to ever come out of it. So I try to take it upon myself. And as I've talked with you and I've talked about on the show, making these small connections so I can just bring a smile to somebody's face, because that smile might be the match that ignites a fuse that sets off a 2-year, fuse to get to that bomb, and it finally blows up. But if that smile can be the crack in the iceberg that allows them to get to the warmth underneath, then I've done my part.
Yeah.
I can't take them to the water and make them drink, but I can at least try to help them.
That's good.
And that's my one, because it also makes me feel good too.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh,
we can talk about. But I think next week we should talk about reflection, about reflecting on this past year.
I like that.
For all
Reflections and goals, because we can
individually.
talk about reflections of this year and what we kind of want to see happen next year.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even know where I was going to go with that, because you were just
Well,
talking.
as we're wrapping up, what final words of wisdom do you have for us, Mike?
Just be gentle on yourself. It's you're only human. You only know what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what you don't know,
Then
It's
you
hard
don't
to
know.
then you don't know. But no, I'm glad people are listening. I'm glad people are getting things out of it. I'm glad people are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a long way to go, but I love our direction, and
We always have more to go because there's always more people.
I'm grateful for everyone that's been listening in, and the future listeners, because I do think this is important. I do think it is, it could be world changing in a lot of ways, and it starts with you.
Yep.
It starts with me. It starts with Gary, and it starts with whoever's listening on the other side of the speaker.
Yeah.
Because our world is falling apart. It's a piece of shit, but it's not going to change unless it starts one person at a time.
Yeah. We have to be the change we want to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think somebody famous said that.
Yeah.
Gary, what about you?
For me, like the thing that I can't stop thinking about is just like a mirror. So I just think that, we all have to spend less time, talking about other people and, kind of bagging on people and stuff like that. But you got to look yourself in the mirror, and you can't be afraid to try to improve yourself. Like, we all need to improve. We all need to get better. And if we're all doing that, if the people around you are doing that, iron sharpens iron.
Absolutely. And when you're part of the solution rather than the problem.
Yeah.
And right now we're fighting, technology and things like that, which embolden the anger and whatnot. You have to take a step back and do exactly what both of you have said and be gentle on yourself, but be part of the solution.
Yeah.
And it takes time. It takes swallowing our pride, because we may have to admit times that we've been wrong, or we don't get to be part of the crowd that is piling on somebody because they said something we don't agree with. Get that out of your mindset. It's all right to disagree. We don't want to live in a world where everyone is the same, because that's really fucking boring. And the world doesn't work like that.
But
we
I
can't
think-
be homogenized.
And I think we need to get to a point where we can have differing opinions, but we can respect each other having those opinions and agree to disagree. But
Like
you hear the
before
other
the
person
internet was
out.
here.
Yeah.
What?
Before the internet was here.
Yeah.
We could have, meaningful conversations
Yeah.
and disagree with each other and be happy about it,
Yeah.
and not tell somebody that they're going to go die in a tire fire or something.
Or you have a road rage because someone cut someone off,
Yeah.
or
Or
you're
your
just
team's
having
going
a
to be
shitty
bad
day.
because you got a new coach, which
Shut
is
up.
going to help us out a
Shut
lot.
up, Gary.
Go Ducks.
Just shut up.
Perfect.
On that note, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate it as always. You can find us on all major podcast platforms. Find us on the socials at ManVsMood, including on TikTok, where we have released our dance video.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you want to see our hot moves, go to at
Giggity,
ManVsMood on TikTok, and you'll see it.
Magic
it doesn't
Mike.
mean it's good. Yeah, Magic Mike. Woo.
Those
And
stairs got abused.
yes, they did. With that, we gone.